What's up, guys? Okay, now listen. I'm gonna give my opinions on this whole Jon Jones being banned. Uh, from I don't know what number of time this is now. Again, second time for performing enhancing drugs, right? So he's been banned again, and everybody's let down again. Now, the initial reaction is obviously, he's let us down again. Can't believe he's done this. He's the worst of the worst. DC's the real champ, etc., etc. And I'm just amazed. I don't know what to think about the whole thing. First of all, I listening to Jon Jones, I've never, ever, 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 ever been convinced of what he's saying is the truth about anything. Even when he was trying to be humble at the start of his career, I was like, you're overdoing the humbleness. I never really believed him. Even when he was on Joe Rogan Experience and he was saying all this stuff about how, I did coke before the weekend before the fights and all that. I still don't even believe him about that. I know you'd say, why would he lie about that? But it's just like everything, all the story about his whole thing, his whole career just seems like a lie now. So obviously people go looking back, don't they? They say, okay, when was this guy ever legit? Was he legit for the Vera fight? The Matyasenko, the Beta fight? The early days. Who knows? Who really knows? The way I see it about this thing now, the one thing where I'll say this seems very, very weird is, so he passed all the tests up until the final test. Is this what they're trying to say? The final test is the one that he failed. So that really doesn't make any sense of why would you take a substance when you haven't been taking it in the run up to the fight, and then you take a substance, like basically really close to the fight to get an advantage. You probably wouldn't get any advantage from that. Probably wouldn't even really get into your system that well to take any benefits from it. So that's one thing that I say is a bit weird. Everybody, MMA, people are going to have their conspiracies in that. But I just think this guy's career is just shrouded in just strangeness. I don't know what to think, And people say, well, why would Dana set him up? That is a good point. Why would he? He doesn't benefit from it. But who knows? I think Dana's just concentrating on Conor McGregor, and that's about it. Dana didn't seem too devastated, but the problem is him and Jon Jones have had a lot of beef recently, and Jon Jones says he hasn't. They both said they haven't spoken to each other since UFC 200. And I remember an interview where Jon Jones was saying, "I don't speak to Dana now; I just speak to Ari." So imagine you're in Dana's position, and he just goes over your head to the guys from WME. And he just basically disrespects you. That could be very awkward, So I don't really understand what the beef was about when, from UFC 200, the whole dick pill thing was pitiful. And then I was really surprised that most of the people bought that excuse. It was like probably one of the worst excuses I've ever heard. And I was really surprised that people bought Dick Pill's excuse, because that was a terrible excuse. It just didn't make any sense for a guy of his age, and it wasn't like he came out and said it. He started crying and he said, "Oh, we're going to have to find out a reason why. There must be a reason why." And then found a reason why, So obviously you're just going to bring a tainted supplement of some kind and say, yeah, it was them. And then they're going to test them and say, okay, yeah, those have a certain substance in it. But I never believed him from that, And the problem is, people are talking about, he wasn't a great fighter anyway, He just fought smaller guys, smaller middleweight guys, and all that. Come on, man. He's one of the best to do it. Him, George St. Pierre, one of the best to do it, and he did it in both eras. But post USADA, John hasn't done much. He only looked great against Cormier, obviously the last fight. He's only had really 2 fights post USADA, to be fair. OSP and Cormier. And he looked great in his last fight, but he was tactically great. You know, Cormier was good for the first couple of rounds, but Jon was just setting him up for that head kick. I don't know, man. I really want to know what everybody thinks about this and what their feelings are. You know, it's just pure confusion at the moment. But Jon Jones will go down as one of the greatest fighters to ever live. You know, even if he stops now, and even with the tainted reputation, let's be honest. If we're being honest, most people are probably using substance, performance enhancing drugs. You know, post USADA, not as much. That's why people are falling off. So it's really hard. It's really hard to pin it down. But for Jon now, if he gets banned for 2 to 4 years, right? So say hypothetically he comes back in 4 years' time, I think the UFC would still embrace him. Personally, I think what's going to happen is he'll come back in 2 years and he'll come back in the UFC. Even if he gets fired, he could still have a career, I believe, in Bellator. And if not, he could still have a career in Japan. That's the crazy thing about him. You know, he still hasn't really lost a fight, even though he's got that one on his record. So, me personally, he still has a career, especially if he goes up to heavyweight. You know, heavyweights don't really reach their prime until I don't know. It's hard to tell. But their careers, you know, you could still be a decent heavyweight in your mid-30s, is what I'm trying to say. So he still has a career, but it's whether he wants a career. I think him and the UFC thing is not working out. So maybe it would be good for him to get a fresh start and go somewhere else. But I don't think the UFC would allow it. He's too big of a name. And the thing is, all right, except for Conor, who are the other names close to Jon Jones? Ronda Rousey, GSP. Then after that, it becomes a bit of a struggle to think who. So I don't know. I'm not too sure. But I have a feeling that he'll come back in 2 years. It's a sad state of affairs. Do you believe that he was set up? Do you believe that he took substances? Tell me what you feel on the whole issue, because for now, I'm just, you know, when you're shocked, but you say to yourself, I'm stupid because I shouldn't be shocked. Why should I be shocked? You know, it's a shocking occurrence. And when you hear of the news, you're shocked. But at the end of the day, should you even be shocked? And that's the crazy thing, man. So let me know in the comments below. I want people commenting on this and tell me what you think of this whole incident. Catch you later, guys.
It's delicious.